Fantastic. Right here behind you. So, first of all, amazing schus that we're here together on the yahrzeit of Rav Zusha. Just to say a little bit about Rav Zusha, that it once happened. First of all, that it actually happened that every time that the Rebbe Rav Zusha was when he went to the shir of his Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich, he was kicked out every time. Right? Why was he kicked out? Because the Maggid would start off the shir by saying, "Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe leimor," right? Hashem said to Moshe, saying, and then the Rebbe Rav Zusha would start throwing conniptions. He'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Hashem spoke to a human being, like I can't believe it, I can't believe it." Like he would start mamish twitching and So then they would have to grab him and throw him out every shir.
Rav Zusha?
Yeah, the Rebbe Rav Zusha. So one time somebody was late. He missed the shir. Who was that guy? I actually know who it was. The youngest of all the Talmidim of the Maggid. Who's that?
Oh.
Who? No. The Balatanya. Yeah, Rav Shneir Zalman, the Balatanya. He was the youngest of the students of the Maggid, and he came late to the shir. So he came inside, and the rest of the Talmidim were like hanging around. So then he said that, who could go over the shir with me? I missed the shir. So then somebody giggled, on the side. Somebody said, why don't you go ask the Rebbe Rav Zusha? And everyone's like, everyone giggles because he gets kicked out every time. So then all of a sudden somebody didn't giggle. And who was that? The Maggid himself. And the Maggid heard and he frowned and he said, yes, why don't you go ask Rav Zusha? So he thought, okay, the Rebbe says you do whatever. It's a little strange, but okay. He goes up to Rav Zusha and he says that, I was wondering if you could go over the shir with me. The Maggid used to give shirim a lot longer than the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov used to give like little parables, little mashalim, contained Kabbalah inside. But the Maggid would give over like long, like an hour long, hour and a half, Mimer, yeah. So then he asks Rav Zusha, so Rav Zusha's like, sure. And he starts the whole thing, like mamish, the whole entire mimer, step by step, pasuk by pasuk, Rashi, this, that, Gemara, Ari, this, and then all of a sudden at the end, first of all, just for us to know, the room did not have any windows that the Maggid gave over in, right? It was thick walls, like mamish brick walls, and he was thrown out. And not only that, even inside, if you were in the room, the Maggid spoke so softly that you had to really listen carefully. So there's no way, there's no chance this guy heard the shir. So then the Balatani says to him, he says, what did you, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. He's like, we know you were kicked out. Like, how'd you know the shir? This is a glimpse into the Rav Zusha's neshama. Ready? Look at the simplicity, this sheer simplicity. He's like, they saw where the Maggid was giving over in Shemayim, like what Shoresh he was drawing his Torah from. So I saw that I can't go this way to hear him. So I just went that way. Simple as that, I like the simplicity. It's unbelievable, the simplicity. Like I was listening to a shir where there was the Rav explaining the different letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and when we got to when we were talking about the Yud, so about a Madrega that's always there, like a Yid that's always holding in the level of Kedusha, that was the Rebbe Rav Zusha. He never ever let go. Never ever let go. And the Rebbe Rav Zusha would actually talk to Hashem. Actually, majority of the day he would be talking to Hashem. The Maggid, the Gabbai, they used to serve him. How would he know that Rav Zusha was hungry? Right, that it's time to serve him. He would say in his hitwadadu, it's when he was talking, he'd be like, "Oh, Hashem, Zusha's ready to eat," and then the Gabbai would know to bring out the food. So one time there was this ruach shtus, the God of the Gabbai, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to teach the Rebbe Rav Zusha that it's not Hashem that's giving him the food, it's me. So he said, what am I going to do? He made a whole plan that he said that he's going to wait. That when the Rav Zusha, when he says like tomorrow, when he says Rav Zusha's ready to eat, I'm just going to wait there, and then he's going to see what's up. Right. So then what happened is that the next day, all of a sudden, he has this whole thing down. He's ready. He didn't prepare the food. He's just ready to strike, so to speak. And Rav Zusha's like doing his and all of a sudden it comes to the point where Rav Zusha's like, and Hashem, Zusha's ready to eat now. And the guy's like, All of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. Rav Zusha gets up, he opens his little door. There's a chassid standing there with a big basket of food, of challah and fruit and mamish, the works. And he's like, Rav Zusha's like, what's this? And he's like, Rabbi, I just want to thank you. I asked you to daven for someone. Baruch Hashem, that person is doing a lot better now. And I just wanted to give a token of our appreciation. He's like, thank you so much, Gayach. And he comes inside. He's like, thank you, Eibishter. Like, he sits there, and the guy is just looking. He's like, he's like, maybe there is a higher power involved. You know what I mean? Like even the Gave started doing tshuva. But this person was extraordinary. We're talking about an extraordinary human being. There was a person that came to the Maggid that said that, Rabbi, I've suffered so much in life. I've gone through so much, like Mamish Yisurin, like tremendous suffering. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to bear with the situation. So then the Maggid said, you know what? I'll tell you what. I have a student. His name is Rav Zusha. And he is someone that's gone through a lot of suffering in life. He lives very poor. He lives very difficult, and go ask him his advice. Get a bracha from him. So then he goes all the way to Rav Zusha and Mamish. Like he travels, he comes to Anipolia, this place Mamish. By the way, if you ever there, it's like literally like just like desolate like land, and once in a while you see like a cow that's just like barely holding on to life, It's like it's not really like such a fruitful type of place, right? And you get and he got to the house of Rav Zusha, and the house was like this, like it looked like a shack. You know what I'm saying? Like mamish, like things on its hinges. It's like barely standing together. Windows are shtickle cracked, and it comes up the squeaky stairs and finally knocks on the door. The door opens. This man with like tatty clothing, and like he's living in such a way, in such poverty, in such suffering. And he says, yes, can I help you? He smiles. He's like, can I help you? And he says, the Maggid of Mezrich told me to come here. He said that you're a Jew that's gone through a lot of suffering. That maybe you could give me a bracha, maybe you could give me some advice how to like endure through suffering. He's like, I think there's been some sort of mistake. He's like, because to tell you the truth, I've never suffered a day in my life. And he like raises his arms with such a smile. The guy chopped the whole lesson right there. That like the Rav Zusha Mamish just would sweeten any difficulty that would come his way, and he never suffered. Even though the average guy would look like, oh my gosh, like it's unbearable. Anyway, okay, now that we spoke a little bit about the Rav Zusha, and I believe that he gave one of the haskamot to Likkutei Moharan, if I'm not mistaken, one of the stamps of the tzaddikim that Baruch Hashem, Okay, and also just to note, he's the brother of the Maggid of Mezrich. No. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, the Nomalei Melech, yeah, blood brother, yeah, exactly. There's many stories about them together when they went together, incognito.
Doesn't have any storm though, right?
No, they made in like later generations, they made a sefer with statements that people heard that he said, like they divided it through the parsha, and actually I think some of his descendants wrote like footnotes at the bottom of the page. It's called Menorat Zahav. Menorat Zahav. It's a sefer with the teachings of the Rav Zusha. Beautiful sefer. Okay, so now we're up to Zion in Likkutei Moharan. Let's open up and see what Rabbeinu is telling us. So v'yochol kol adam lit'om tam or ha'ava shebedat. So we were talking about, a lot of people are here new, but we were talking about last week that there's two types of love. There's ahava that's shebeyamim, shebezman. There's a love that's contained in days. It's within measure. It's within time. That's vav. No, wait.
We did Vizet Shamru, Rabbi?
So let me just give me a second.
Before Zion.
Here. Okay, here. Right, guys, in this one, page Men Zion Amid Bet.
We do Vizet Shamru, Rabbi Gidon?
I believe so. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so all right, without further ado. So we were last time we got together, we were talking about this inyan of that there's two types of love. There's one called ahava shebeyamim, love that's contained within days, and that Rabbi Nachman explained because that comes into the days are measured by the Torah. Right? The Torah is what gives all life and all measures, all everything in existence. It gives its a tzura, its appearance, its spiritual entities, right? It's physical entities, all aspects. It's what the Torah dictates. Like for example, speaking about the Baal HaTanya, we said that before the Baal HaTanya died, the students asked him, Rebbe, what do you see? And he said, I don't see anything, the physical objects anymore. I see the letters that are contained within everything, the Hebrew letters that gives everything its existence in that moment. Because if those letters were taken away, as we know, Tanya speaks about that, right? That if those letters are taken away for one moment, then everything would return back to total nothingness, like the way the world existed, the way the world was before the existence of the universe. Tovavo, exactly. So that's ahava shebeyamin. That's love within days, within measure. That's within the mitzvot also, by the way. Right? That's within the mitzvot, every single mitzvah, because that's also like a measure. That's like a pipe, a channel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in order for us to connect Him through all the mitzvot. So bound within that is love. Within every single mitzvah, we have to meditate on this as we're doing it. That within every mitzvah is love. Like why I'm putting on my tefillin, I'm connecting to channel through love, through this mitzvah to Hashem. Right? Now, that's ahava shebeyamin. Then there's ahava shebedat. There's a love that's within intellect. That's beyond. That's a love that's beyond all time and space. What's that love? It's the love that, like a father has, that Hashem had for the Jewish people within his mind, before he created the world. Right? We know a child comes from the mind of the father. So if we can imagine like a father loves a child, we know that a father loves a child, right? So, but try to imagine that even before the child is born, within the father's mind, there's like this bond and this love, this unexplainable love between the father and the son. Now that's something Rabbi Nachman says that's beyond our understanding, because we're holding the place of time and space, cause and effect. We're not in that place of oneness. But there is a place that's beyond all time and space, and there's a love that's there that Hashem had for the Jewish people, that when He created the world, and He saw all of us shmendrikos, and Hashem was like, you know what, I'm going to create the world. I love these guys, I'm going to create the world. With that, and that's a love that's beyond all time and space.
He also loves the Goyim too, if that's the case.
Specifically, the pasuk says Yisrael. It's talking about Yisrael, but obviously Hashem has a love for everything in the world. There's a love that's bound. That's ahava shebeyamin. Understand? The love within days. That means like all time and space. That means if I find myself like in Bar Minan, let's say a place that's void of godliness, I have to meditate on the fact that Hashem's love is contained really within here, and I can connect to Hashem's love in whatever way I can, by maybe forcing my Yetzer Hara or whatever I'm doing, but to connect to Hashem, right? But that's love within days. That's love within all people, all mankind. But then there's a love for the Jewish people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had that before He created the world, within His own mind. And that love, that type of love, is called ahava shebedat. Love within our minds, within a mind. It's not within the world of actuality yet, but it's within. Now Rabbi Nachman said, now you should know there's two parts to Torah also that corresponds to these two types of love. There's the revealed aspects of the Torah. There's the halacha and Gemara, Mishnah, all these things are the revealed parts of Torah. That corresponds to the love that corresponds to the days. And then there's the hidden parts of Torah, like the Chassidut and Kabbalah, the Kitzvi Arizal and the Zohar, which corresponds to Ahava Shebedat. It comes from that place of love that's from intellect, Kiviyachol. It's from a more inner type of place, a higher place. So it says that really, really, this type of love, the second higher love, he says the world can't handle it fully now, right? Only until the amount that it can handle. But then in the future, when Mashiach comes, that's going to be totally revealed. That higher level of love that we can't really tangibly feel. Okay? Now in Zion, Rabbeinu says, listen to this. He says, don't think that this is something that we're talking about, that only when Mashiach comes, when I'm Zocha, I've gone through so many tikkunim and this, that, then maybe I could tap into that love that's called Ahava Shebedat. No. He says, V'yachol kol adam lit'om tam or Ahava Shebedat. Rabbeinu says, every single Yid, every single Jew is possible to taste this light of Ahava Shebedat. Kol echad lefi bechinato. Every individual according to his level. We have to know one concept, very important, gentlemen. That never demise the worship, the Judaism of another individual. No matter what it is. You understand? Like that maybe, for example, I just want to say a story. There was one time a person came to his son. It's a famous story, a lot of people know. Somebody came to his son, he says, I know you're learning in Mamish, in top yeshivas in Chaim Berlin, I forgot where he was learning. So he's like, I want you to teach me Gemara. The father was hardly, just barely religious, very extremely modern, barely knew how to read properly. I want you to teach me Gemara. And the kid's like, Gemara is there's so many different wordings in Aramaic and Hebrew letters. It's a whole mishmash. And by the time we get through the concepts, it's going to take so long. So he's like, I want to do it. Go ask your rabbi. And then he comes back, his rabbi says, sure, try to learn with him if you can. That's great. He comes, he sits through, he learns with this kid every day. After 1 year, he finishes a daf. One daf, bro. Guys, I know you guys should imagine one daf, bro. Whole year it took him, right? Finally, he was so happy when he was done. He says to his son, he's like, I want us to do a siyum. And then the kid's like, again, he's like, Abba, that's not the way it goes. Siyum you have to do when you finish a whole mesechta. You can't just it's not just like a party, So he's like, no, we should celebrate. I want you to ask a posik. This, he asked his Rav. It says, Rav said, maybe we should ask a gadol. He brought the question to Rav Moshe Feinstein, and Rav Moshe Feinstein said, yes. Not only should you make a siyum, but he said, I'm coming to the siyum. I want to come to that siyum. Yeah, and Rav Moshe Feinstein came to that siyum, and then after all the celebrations, the only I guess the sad part of the story is the next day the father was nifter. Father passed away. So whatever it was. So during the Spadim they said that certain people that came to this world to fix a certain thing and certain that was his tikkun and so on and so forth. But to let you know, by the way, the same thing without the death part happened in Shayashiv. There was a kid there that also took him a whole year to learn one daf. And at the end of the year, Rabbi Freifeld, he got that daf bound, leather bound, with a binder, with a book binder. And he said, "This is your mesechta." He gave it to that kid, and he danced with that kid, like mamish. I guess it's different versions. That's the version I heard. But either way, we have to know we have to know that every person is shaykh for them to taste this high level. It's all according to that level of that individual. You can't say someone's holier than you because you know more. A person, just because of their sincerity, because of their devotion, they could be on a higher madriga. They could tap into a love that's deeper than a person that knows a lot of shas and poskim. So that's one thing to note. So he says, Achshav, afilu achshav b'toch hayamim. Rabbeinu says that it's shayach for all of us, even a simple person, to taste this ahava shabadat, this ahava that's within intellect. Afilu achshav, even these days, betoch hayamim, within our days. Within these days, it's not something that only once Mashiach comes, I can tap into this higher level and mamish feel this like connection with Hashem. No. This higher level of love, it's ahava shabadat, you can even taste it now. Hainu, what does that mean? Keshiyakasher et libo ledato. When you have to just do one thing. You have to be makasher your heart to your dat, to your intellect. I know we live in a generation. It sounds so easy, but we live in a generation that the generation is the opposite of that. The whole generation, everything. If you study media, the whole thing is just like literally to like just grasp the heart of an individual. You know, like look at a like a chocolate bar commercial. Let's say, you know what I mean? It's about a piece of chocolate, but the way they go about it, the way they dance and this, it's like almost like a mahalach in life. You know what I mean? It's mamish like you're going to be so much happier. Look how happy we are with this chocolate bar. You know what I mean? It's like it's all this. It's like just trying to get your lave, right? There's not so much logic behind it, right? The logic behind this, but probably most of the stuff in the chocolate bar is probably not good for you, right? So we're not talking that it's not a world of logic. It's a world that's very much after the hearts of every individual. That's how a person can get lured into the other side. But if a person could just stop himself, mamish, for a moment, you know, and just be like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? You know, if a person just remove himself for, you know, a minute or two, a person could really overcome just from connecting their heart to their mind. He says, Ki kol echad mi Yisrael. He says, because every single Jew knows, Yodea, he knows deep in his heart, Sheyesh Elokim Bichlal. He knows that there's a God in the world. Right? The Gemara gives an example of a thief, a Jewish thief. Chas v'shalom, right? He's in the middle of stealing, and all of a sudden he hears somebody comes, and he's like, "Hi, Rabbanu Shalom." He's in the middle of stealing. You know? Like every person knows that there's a God. Every Yid is aware of that. Aval harashoim hem b'rshut libam. What's the difference? The Rashaim. Hem birashut, they're in the domain, they're governed, liban, by their hearts. What are you governed by? The Maharal of Prague says a human being walks upright on his feet. His mind is above his heart. A behema walks on all fours. His mind and his heart on the same level. You know? The whole goal of a human being, of a man, to elevate himself, to be like, is this right or wrong? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? If you study the whole Nazi Germany, like, started because of people just like really just like flaming up about their, you know, different ideologies, and people not stopping saying, "Hey, is this okay? Like, what are we doing?" You know what I mean? Like something's wrong. Not questioning. You know, that's why in yeshiva it's all questioning. Everything you learn is like questioning. You know, any Rav that like gives over Torah and you can't question like what he says, I don't think you should learn from them. You know, like, you know, the one of the people that I remember I was once in Karlin Stalin, and then next to the Stalin Rebbe there was a chassid, a Yerushalmi chassid, this payas like mamish, you know, coming down to his belly button, and he has such a long beard, and I was like, wow, I couldn't stop staring at him. And so my host told me, he said, "You see that guy next to the Rebbe?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That guy used to be studying in the Vatican. Mamish, a goy who used to be a shagitz mamish." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What happened?" He has a whole story. The guy went one day in the Vatican. He found, you know, a book that said Code of Jewish Law in the library, and he started like reading. He started seeing like all these amazing things, you know, all these halachot about like, you know, how to tie your shoes and how to, you know. He's like, "What? They bring a shem into how they." So he started researching, he started asking questions also about his own religion. He started raising questions, and slowly they were talking, he was asking such great questions, like to disprove like things in the New Testament that didn't make sense, based on the Old Testament. And then they told him, "Listen, you can't ask such questions here, I'm sorry." He's like, "For those questions, maybe you should go to Jerusalem or something." He's like, "We're not..." And he did, and he left, and he went to Jerusalem, he started going, you know, Esha Torah, discovery, this, that, and he started like, you know, until now he's a Yerushalmi Chassid, mamish.
He was Jewish?
He became Jewish.
Yeah, he
So
wasn't
this was
No.
recent. This was recent,
Yeah.
100 years ago.
No, not 100.
No.
Yeah. Guy's alive.
Okay, learning the Vatican.
So this you visualize.
Nice.
Maybe the last Vatican.
So it says, Aval, so right? So he says the only difference between Tzaddikim and Rashaim is the Rashaim, they're in the domain of their hearts. Right? There was one time a story with the Balatanya, another story. We're mentioning a lot about the Balatanya. There's a lot of people into Chabad here, so we try to make everyone feel welcome. So there was a story one time with the Balatanya with the, who is it? France? Napoleon, yeah. It was a story that the Balatani was very infatuated with Napoleon. Like, what's going to be with him? He held that he's very bad for mankind and he shouldn't be in power. And he actually sent like spies, his own spies, to go like undercover to like find out what Napoleon's doing so that they could daven and like try to change decrees and this that. So there was one time one of his guys went undercover, you know, to report to see what's happening in the Vatican. Not in the Vatican, in the army, in Napoleon's strategy. So he goes and everything's going well. No one knows that he's Jewish. It's fine. And one day they make an announcement that Napoleon's actually coming to this platoon to check out this platoon, you know, randomly. And he's like, okay, hopefully he won't notice me, but whatever. They all, everyone gets ready. It's that they're all polished up. They're all standing on a certain, like, in certain order, like lines. And Napoleon he gets there and he starts walking, and he starts his face is a little tilted, and he starts walking forward. He's like looking at all the lines, just making sure all the soldiers are in order, and then he passes by in front of this guy, this Jew, right? And all of a sudden he stops and he looks into his eyes and he's like, "Are you here, like part of this platoon?" And then, without flinching, the soldier says, "Yes, sir. My rank number is this, that, whatever." He said his whole thing, and then Napoleon's like, "Okay, I'm just making sure." And then he continues walking. Then all of a sudden he stops and he takes his hand and he puts it on the guy's chest. And he waits a few seconds and he's like, "Okay, you're okay." And he continues going. Now, okay, let's zoom into the story. What happened in that story? So Napoleon was trying to check if this guy was really lying, to see if his heart was really beating on. Maybe on the outside he was lying, and the inside he's like, boom, 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 boom. So let me see. So, but this guy, since he's a student of the Balatanya, and the Balatanya would always teach that your mind has to be sholet al alev, has to control your heart. You shouldn't let your heart just run wild. It should be governed by. So really, if you know that you shouldn't be afraid of anyone besides Hashem. Einod milvado. Really, there's none besides Hashem. So there's no real reason to be afraid. Even if Napoleon's standing in front of your face and going to discover you, really, the truth is there's none besides Hashem. So I could be calm.
You can still be scared, but not like.
But not like bugging out.
Yeah.
Your heart could be still calm. And he felt his heart and it saved his life. So again, so it's very matim to what we're learning. Rashaim, they're in the domain of their hearts. Vahamidot vayamim, and all the characteristics and all days are included in your heart. Nichlal and believe. Everything's in your heart. No. So what do you think that means? Well,
Everything's in your heart.
what does that mean? Meaning a person feels everything in their heart, everything that they're going through, all their experiences. The truth is, it could be a lot deeper than what I'm seeing now that you're
I
asking
don't
the
agree with what
question.
you're saying, but I feel like it's more of
No, you're right.
maybe
It's a very deep statement that all of the characteristics and all of the days, hem nichlalin believe, they're all included within the heart. Okay, let's put that on the side. We have to think about that. We have to
Get back to it.
yeah.
What was the Rabbi Marush's
I think also, if you take this Torah, I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm already thinking something, but
How do you want to? Yeah, this is right. What's the perspective of it?
so meaning the reason why he's saying it's connected to in the heart, because the way he's explaining Ahava Shabadat, the higher level, he's explaining Bedat. Ken Tzaddik. Shomea? Right? The second level that he was talking about Shabadat, like a level of love that's experienced in intellect. So now he's talking about the heart. And then he says the heart is the place that's more where the days are located, like the mitzvot are located.
והמידות והימים equals מידת היראה והאהבה. וכן שאר המידות.
Right. But the days, what about the days?
That's what he says. That's what he translates with Baruch.
Yeah, but what about the days? How
It
does
says והמידות והימים equals מידת היראה והאהבה.
Yeah, but right, that's not really saying much. That's not really saying anything. Thank you, but
Rabbi, can you just clarify one more time? Intellectual love. It's love for the mind, but how so?
no, the intellectual, the love that's Ahava Shebedat is not referring to a love that's really intellectual. It's referring to a love that's not governed by time and space. It's a love that Hashem has for the Jewish people that's really beyond all time and space, that existed before Hashem created the world.
And we're saying there's ways to achieve that.
There's ways to tap into that love. Yes.
Tap into the love into the future, but not really.
Now, when we attach our hearts, which is the realm of days, my friend, we're answering your question. That when we attach our hearts, which is the realm of days and the characteristics like love and fear, ahava, v'yirah, when we connect these things, when we uplift it to our intellect, to our dot, then we can experience, we can start to taste this ahava that's within intellect. Do you understand? Even though this love that's within intellect, it's a love that's far beyond us. It's a love that's beyond days. There's a love, again, the two yesodot. There's a love that corresponds to ahava shebayamim. It's love that's contained within days, within characteristics, within ourselves, within our hearts. And then there's a love that's beyond. There's a place that I have in my intellect that's emunah, that even things that I don't understand, or even when it comes to, let's say, a bad day, that I have emunah that things are for the best and I can find the good, or even like if there's a negative characteristic that's working up against me, that I know how to calm it down with the knowledge of Torah that's coming through my mind to like tame the heart.
So how do we know? How do we know the difference? How do you know if you tapped in or you're just loving? Like let's say I do something. Like let's say one day, like your children, right? So you love that, but is that the love you're tapping into, or you see your children grow up and that's the love? Like how do you detect? I feel love. How do you know which love? How do you know when you're tapping into the intellectual love or the regular love?
Well, just like you said, like that's an example, that a love, for example, that's beyond like logic. For example, a love that a father has for a child. A child could make his father crazy, but the father would still just love the child. Like nevertheless, even if the child does the most disrespectful things, the father, it doesn't make sense. He's still opening the doors to his child. So there's a bond beyond reasoning. That's a higher level of love. So the same thing when it comes to us. There's one level of love when we're doing Torah, mitzvot, we're understanding and we're perceiving Hashem and we're working with our characteristics and working with the days that we have. But then there's a level that's beyond. How do you tap into that beyond? When you take your heart and you connect it to the higher level, then you could start to taste the higher level of that love. You hear what I'm saying?
How do we achieve that? How do we get to that?
To connect your heart to your mind when you're going through situations, like an average example, like a guy is in a co-ed high school, and he falls for Bas Yisrael. He gets feelings for Bas Yisrael. So he comes to his rabbi and he's like, listen, I don't know what to do. On one hand I want to be Shomer Negiah, but on one hand I don't want to be Shomer Negiah. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? So the Rebbe doesn't just tell him. The Rebbe doesn't give him a smack in the face and say, "Oh, Bar Minan, and you're so bad, and you have to know, blah blah blah." He tells him, but really, there's a struggle between two aspects inside of you. There's a part your heart tells you shouldn't be, and then your mind tells you no. Hashem says you should. So, it's a battle between the heart and the mind. Your goal is to make harmony. That the heart should listen to the dictates of the mind, follow. It's like a behemoth that you're dragging, like a horse, You have to know you could make it schlep anywhere you want to. You just have to like want to. Yeah. So the more you can work on your amuna, for example, let's say hitbodedut. People tell me, what's hitbodedut? Like talking to Hashem for 1 hour. Like who the diddly could do that? Come on. Like people make it like, I'm telling you, I spoke to certain Breslovers. I'm trying to work on it that like I should be able to like mamish. I'm not perfect, but I know Breslovers that mamish, they wouldn't dream of starting their day unless they did it with it. They wouldn't dream. I spoke to Breslov in Svat. I'm like, it's not hard for you. Like
What does that mean? What's that?
An hour every day. Like it's not hard for you to designate this time to talk to Hashem. About everything, about whatever you need to go through. Like let's say you have 10 things. You put like 5 minutes to each thing. Like it's mamish. It's really not so much time if you really think about it, right? And in our day and age, like how much time do we spend on our phones, on our apps, and our this and our bar nuns? Like think about it. Like we think it's like, wow, it's so hard. But Nachman's advice is so easy, but you have to be a little bit of a warrior to be able to do it. To be able to set that time. Like I'm doing, it's the best investment that you could do. Why? Because that's an avoda of connecting your mind to your heart. Your heart is saying, let's say you go through a difficult day. And you say, this day is difficult, it's bad, it's so hard, it's bitter. So when you do it, and you sit in front of Hashem and you start thinking about the eternal purpose and why. Like, why am I going through this? Then you start to think about concepts of kapara and tikkun. It must be like there's an eternal good thing that I'm going through for some sort of reason. And you start to get hope, and that's an avoda. Hitzbodedut is an avoda of taking the heart and uplifting it to the level of the mind, of tapping into that ahava shebedat, of realizing that ein od milvado, there's nothing to fear besides Hashem. My heart doesn't have to start thumping for any reason. It's a high madrega. But this is the Torah that Rabbeinu is talking about that. Because it connects all the way back to the beginning of the Torah. Remember, Eli? At the beginning of the Torah, we said that a person should be shalom. Look at Aleph. Just guys, take a look at Aleph. If you look at Aleph, all the way in the beginning of this Torah, of Lamed Gilmel, you're doing Zion, but look at Aleph for a second. It says what? Haklalu shetzarech levakesh shalom, that you should be a seeker of peace. When Rabbi Nachman said, what kind of peace? Not only peace, sheyesh shalom ben Yisrael. And sheyesh shalom lechol adam bemidotav. There should be peace inside of you, within your own characteristics. You shouldn't be divided. Shelo yeh mechulak bemidotav merotav. You shouldn't be divided in any way. Are you there? I'm not there yet. Like if I come up to you and slap you in the face, bro, like right now, come on, whether if I give you like $1 million, like your reaction is going to be the same? I don't think so. I don't think you're there.
Do it again.
Yeah, do it again. Which one? It's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's mamish. It's a madrega. We have to like get to. Like there's the stories of people. All of a sudden the guy his house is burning down. He's dancing in the streets. It's it's a real thing. You got to take your heart. Even without it, bro. You got to uplift the mind. Like Rahman, we're laughing, but like the situations. I just want to tell you. Like, let me tell you a story. I don't want to freak you out, but maybe I should really, But there's a story once in the Holocaust. Rahman al-Islam, it was talking about uplifting the heart and connecting it to the Das. There's a guy in the Holocaust. It's a true story. He came to the Rebbe. I think the Bluzher Rebbe came to ask him a question. The Nazis had like certain bunkers, and they would put Jews in there. And like at a certain point, there was so many Jews like that they had to burn down some of the bunkers with Jews inside. So they wanted to do the children. So they say every anti-Semite likes one Jew, So there was this Nazi soldier that liked this Jew, this older Jew, and he came up to him. His name was Yaakov, and he came up to him and he says, "Yaakov, listen, I know we're going to be burning down one of these bunkers tonight that has the kids in it, and I know your kid is in this bunker. Now, what I could do for you, since I like you, I could take your kid out and put in another kid. You give me the green light. What would you do?" he asks his Rebbe, and the Rebbe's like, I'm not going to answer such a shayla. And then it's like, and he's like, what do you mean? He's like, Rebbe, of course you have to answer. He's like, I'm not answering. He's like, don't ask me. And then he's like, you know what, Rebbe? The reason why you're not answering, because probably I know why. Because probably the answer is like, I can't do it. And you don't want to tell me. And the guy mamish went, and he's like, that's the right thing to do. This is the Ratzon Hashem, you know? And he went and told the guy, no, don't switch. And his kid and the bunker went in flames that night. I'm telling you, this is the trippy part of the story was, they say the guy was mamish, he elevated his heart to the level of intellect of Amunah, that look, I'm giving my son as a sacrifice, Al Kiddush Hashem. And he came to a level of thanking Kodesh Baruch Hu and being besimcha so much that he has such an opportunity that he was standing and dancing and singing Ashereinu. Ashereinu. You know the song Ashereinu we're all singing when we go to Uman?
No, you can't.
You know?
You can't sing that in Auschwitz. It's Auschwitz.
Yeah, sung in Auschwitz, sung in these places. I'm telling you. And well, that's what we have to know. Like lifting up the heart means, Rabbi Nachman says what he's talking about is that lifting up your situation and connecting it to intellect, realizing, Einod milvado, there's none besides Hashem. Yeah. But his son, Mamish, got a visa straight to the highest level of Gan Eden, we know. You know the Chassidim one time there was a story, just to tell you, I'm telling you a lot of stories tonight, I don't know why, but like there's one time a story where there was like, they were flying mace, somebody died and they wanted to bury them in Eretz Yisrael, right? So then as they're going, the two Chassidim from Chaver Kaddish were there, and the rabbi of the town also they sent to go be with them. So as they're in the middle of the flight, they come out to schmooze, you know, they get a drink, you know, by the bar cart, and then one chassid goes to the other, he's like, Yankel, he's like, does the mace have a visa? He's like, does the nifter, the guy that died, does he have a visa to go to Israel? So the guy's like, yo, he's got a visa, Yeshkan visa. So then the rabbi's like, guys, come on, it's not nice, you know, like, what is this? Like, the guy died, you know, you're joking, you have a visa, this, that. So he's like, no, you don't understand. He's like, when Shmuley asks me, does the guy have a visa? He's not talking about a visa on a passport. What he's talking about, does the guy have numbers on his arm? Is he a guy that went through the Holocaust? Right? Because if he has those numbers, then he's got a visa. A visa to where? A visa to Olam Haba. He already went through Gehenna. He doesn't have to go through anything. That's why the Satmar Rebbe once said, he said, the Satmar Rebbe was giving brachot to Chassidim, so the Chassidim were like, what if you're not here in the summer, you're going upstate, like you're not going to be around, what should we do? Who should we get a blessing from? So he says, if you go to shul and you see a Jew pull up his sleeve to put on tefillin, and you see numbers tattooed on his arm, he's like, you could go get a bracha from him. He has as much power as me. You know? Why? Because those things, if a guy goes through such a Gehenna, such a situation, where everything's pushing against him, and he's like, no, he's Mekasher, his lave to his das. He's like, there's something that's above. There's above all time and space. There's a love that I know you have for me, that even though I can't see it right now, but I believe that it's there. And such a neshama is tasting this ore of ahava shebedat. That person is not birshut libo. He's not in the domain of his heart. He's on a higher level. As it says, Rachmana liba bai, that Hashem desires the heart. Where's your heart at? What do you want the most? I remember one time I was in yeshiva. I come to Rebbe, I'm like, Rebbe, I'm in Baal Tshuva. I'm like, you know, I'm still have, you know, all of a sudden these like gates of heart is like, all of a sudden like run through my head. You know, I don't know what to do. Like I'm, you know, and I'm here. I'm like learning. I'm dorming. Like how come am I having like, you know? So then he said, you should know one thing. He's like, Kadosh Baruch, the Maharal of Prague says that Kadosh Baruch Hu judges a Yid from what he wants, not from where he's at. He's like, what do you want? He's like, you don't want schmutz, you want the Kadosh Baruch Hu, you want Torah, you want mitzvahs. Yeah. So he's like, you know, don't make yourself so. You know, and then he said another reason why, like all of a sudden the Yitzhar is coming so much after is because when you're in yeshiva, like you're dafka learning, you're growing, so all of a sudden the Yitzhar knows, like, let me try to get him down, let me try to like bother him even more. He's like, people that are working, businessmen, is that they're much more, they're not like prime candidates, you know? Uvilvad shichaven et libo l'shamayim, on condition that you attach your hearts to the heavens. Ki ikaran shel hamidot hu halev, because again he says a lashon, again he's pushing what you're saying. There's a reason why he said that. The main aspect of the midot, of the characteristics, it's all linked in the heart. It's like the heart is like it's like the place that gives life to everything. It's what's connected to everything. Nimtza, so we find.
Emotions, basically. All the emotions.
Correct. All your emotions, any love, any fear, any feeling that you may have whatsoever. It's rooted in the heart. Nimtza, so we find. Keshemikasher et libo ladato, when you connect your heart to your dat, to your intellect, sheyodea sheyesh elokim, that you understand that there is a God, you mamish bring into your, that's which is the practice of ikvodedut, of coming to the level of realizing that there's a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Yodea bichlal shemelo kol haaretz kavodo, you come to a level of understanding that there is no place void of His glory, that the whole land is full of His glory. Melo kol haaretz kavodo, you come to that level. Ve'yodea b'yediot Torah, and you also know, you have knowledge of Torah, you're steiging, you're learning Gemara, you're learning Halach, you're involved. Uchshe kofeh et libo ledato hazeh, when you have Torah in your mind, and when you force your heart to connect to that mind, hainu shelibo birshuto, that your heart is now governed by you, by your mind that knows what's right and wrong. Azai nichlolin gamkein hamidot sheblibo ledato. Now also your own characteristics that are in your heart also connect to your dat. Also, all of your characteristics now have a refinement and an elevation. You know how the Didley did Rabbi Yochanan offer his sister to Reish Lakish? You ever think about that one? The guy's like an axe murderer. He's like a Viking, right? Maybe worse, And like he sees him just jump over the lake, and he's like, "Wow, what strength! It should be used for Torah. You want to marry my sister?" Like the average guy just wants to stop in the Gemara and be like, "What? Like, excuse me, Billy? What are you nuts? Like, what do you? This is a shidduch. You know what I'm saying? You don't get a resume, a shidduch resume from the guy. What is his yeshivas that he learned in? You know what I'm saying? Like, check if he has any tattoos, this, that. Like, well, come on. So what was it? Yeah. So he said, right, exactly like you're saying, that if a person, all these like strengths are all linked into the heart. They're all part of the heart, as Rabbeinu says. But if a person now uplifts his heart to the higher level, then all those very same strengths, those very same like potential energy that person had, is now elevated to a much higher level. So that's probably what was going on. Rabbi Yochanan was seeing, he was like, this guy, if he mamish learns Torah has this ability to take now your very own characteristics, like your, like that murdering attitude, and now can connect it to something so much greater, so much higher. Like somebody gave an example once. Like, what if a guy's into blood? What if a guy's like, mamish, that's his sign, that's his mamish, like he was born under a blood star, I don't know, So the Gemara says, exactly. Become a shochet, become a mohel, you could still be involved, but in a good way. You know what I mean? Everything can be done in a good way. The Gemara says goes through all these things, even things that are mamish not kosher, like, oh, what about a person wants to taste pig, this, that. I was like, yeah, this is special. Did you see that one? Special fish that tastes like similar. So like Gemara, I don't know. I never really cared for pigs so much. I'll be honest with you. Right. But the bottom line is, right, everything could be elevated. Now your midot can receive this light of the love that's beyond, that we were talking about. And you yourself could start to perceive what's known as the or haganuz according to your level. It's all according to the connecting your mind, your heart to your mind, elevating your heart and connecting. What? That's an aspect. Bechina means an aspect. Yeah, that's the aspect of, exactly. Hainu, what does that mean? Shatzedikim v'atorah shaya ganuz v'tzafun ad atami menu. All the tzedikim and all the Torah and all the gevaldig madrigas that was hidden from you until now. Uchshekofefet libo lahadat. Now that you're forcing your heart and you're connecting it to your das, you're not letting it run wild. Your mamish taming it to come in the right direction. Azai mekabel alev. Now your heart could be makabel. It's a kli, it could be makabel. Shu shoresh l'chol amidot, which is the shoresh of all amidot. What can it be makabel? Umekabel or ha'ahava shebedas. This love that's beyond all time and space. What's known as ahava shebedas. Who ha'ahava shaya b'koach. This is a love that was in potential that Hashem had conceptually between himself and the Jewish people before he created the world. The love that Hashem and the Jewish people had in his mind before he created the world. Reb Nachman saying you could tap into that love. If you go to Uman and you see somebody's like mamish bugging out and crying and just rolling his eyes and just like you're like, what the diddly's going on? It could be very well that he's tapping into this ahava shebedat. It's totally normal. Do you know how many people I see, they come to Uman, first 3 seconds they get to their venue, they break down, they're crying like babies. Some of the biggest, even Bukhari and tough guys, I'm telling you, some of these guys mamish, like G's, in the airports, they're talking like they run the whole place, and then when they get to Uman, when they get to Rabbeinu, like babies, they bring Pampers, I'm telling you, like mamish. It's beautiful, because Rabbeinu could do that to you. The tzaddikim could do that to you, but you have to connect. This is the mission. Rabbeinu is saying, don't just wait to Uman. Do this throughout the year. The mission statement is connect libo lemocho, connect your mind to your heart. So now he brings it all to the pasuk, but maybe we'll save this for next week.